Hello and welcome to the ROKER Report XTRA podcast. My name is Richard Spate and I'm stepping in for Graham, who's been recording other podcasts this week. Today we are delighted once again to be joined by Andy Holt, the owner of Accrington Stanley Football Club since 2015. We've got a game upcoming against Accrington away on Saturday, and Andy has kindly battled through various technical challenges that we've had trying to get this call set up to join us from his factory today. So hi there, Andy.
How you going on, Richard? You okay?
I'm not so bad now. We've got everything sorted. Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to Accrington Stanley on Saturday. I'm actually coming over to the game myself, bringing my little lad, my 9-year-old, and meet my dad there as well, who's coming down from Sunderland. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to visiting your club and visiting the town as well.
Well, we're looking forward to welcoming you. It's fantastic for us to be playing against clubs like Bolton and Ipswich and Rotherham and Coventry and some massive clubs in League One. And of the massive clubs, you're one of them. You're probably a super club, so it's fantastic to invite you down. I can't wait for it myself.
We've grown familiar with each other over the last 9 months or so. I think this is the fifth game, including the abandoned game in December, that we've had with you. We're certainly learning a lot about Accrington Stanley, and from your conversation with Graham last year, we covered quite a lot of topics. That was just before the abandoned game in December. We had a deluge when we brought down over 2,500 fans, didn't we? I think, Andy.
There was a deluge, and the problem with weather forecast. I mean, forecast for this weekend's perfect. It's sun, 18, 20 degrees. So it's looking fabulous for this weekend, and you're more likely to need your sun cream than your raincoat.
I'll make sure to bring a hat and a pair of sunglasses then.
Yeah, well, we put a new pitch in this year at a massive expense, and our lads are telling us it's a fantastic pitch. So I hope your lads enjoy playing on it when they come down. In fact, ironically, you were first people on it last time you played us. You beat us 3-0, I think, in the cup. So with a new pitch, and there's a lot more work being done at the place since you were last down. So hopefully it's a bit better. It was something last year. I got a lot of stick from Sunderland fans because of this rained off match. And I understand that it's annoying. It was difficult for me. Our pitch was poor, without a shadow of a doubt, and what were underneath the pitch were bad. And you could look at a forecast, and even if it said sunshine, an hour of rain before the match would change everything. It just couldn't cope with any downpour. So we got more rain before the match than we expected, and then obviously as match went on and got to half time, it became torrential, and we had to call it off. And ref called it off. We followed the rules, and I'll be honest, I thought we were doing well against you on that match. So I was sick it were called off. I'd rather it carry on it rain and get the points. But anyhow, that's life.
Yeah, it was 1-1 at the time, wasn't it? And then I think when we played the rearranged fixture in April, we went out and beat you 3-0 with a half decent performance, as I remember. So yeah, it was unfortunate for yourselves. I think back in December when you spoke to Graham, we were in a really good position in the league, and by the time you came to play us in April, we weren't looking quite so good.
It's a tough league. I mean, we talk about budgets and we talk about one thing or another, but at the end of the day, you've 11 men against 11 men, and it's a really tough league. There's some great sides in it, of which you're one of them. Kind of, for me, the bad weather helps us, not you. The bad pitch and the bad weather were helping us and not yourselves. And so we've lost a little bit of a kind of a leveler between two sides, because you played as a cup and there's some absolute quality players you've got there. I mean, I'm looking forward to the game. I'm not. We're not frightened, as we say down here. So I'm looking forward to the game.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you had a decent result on the weekend. It's been the international break weekend, and you were 3-3 away at Bristol Rovers. And when I saw the highlights, it looked like, even though you went down to 10 men, you were quite nifty going forward.
Yeah, I think we've got. I'll be honest. I think we've got approaching our best squad ever. I think Coleman's done his. Our John Coleman's done his best work so far. And a lot of these players have only just come in last week at end at window. We tend to get people at end at window when everybody else has done the business. We tend to get a couple of loans and people that haven't quite managed to secure deals at other clubs. We tend to get because we can't pay the same wages or the same transfer fees as anybody else. But we think we've got a really strong side. I'm delighted with it. I saw it on Saturday at Bristol. A couple of errors I thought for a couple of their goals, but there was some fantastic football played. So we're excited.
Sorry, Andy. You managed to bring in a player. It seemed to be slightly after the deadline. A loan player.
No, we recorded it on the deadline, but by the time the paperwork was completed and signed off at EFL because it was a last minute one. It actually gets announced day after because it was done on the as the clock struck 12, as it were.
Yeah, we often hear about that on deadline day, that there are deals can be in train and then go through, and it was just interesting to see that you'd managed to get it in right at the last minute. Do you think
it could have been all night of a job with EFL if they don't have a cut off, it just go on forever.
Well, absolutely. So you think you had a good window then, because you brought in, is it 4 or 5 loan players?
Yeah, I mean we only want 4 or 5 loan players. You're only allowed to put 4 or 5, 5 in your squad on your match day squad. So any more than that, and they're being left sat outside, and nobody wants to loan players to a club that aren't going to give them an opportunity to play. So if you get 7 or 8 loan players, which is what we've had in past, and less signed players, for obvious reasons, because we couldn't afford to get the right. Club could only get what it could afford to get. You end up with a lot more loan players, and half of them are feeling left out, and they get disillusioned and disheartened. But because they're good players in their own right, it's just that there's other players in the place, and they end up sitting on sidelines, and the loaning club gets annoyed, the player gets annoyed, and this change of the loan window that happened 3 years ago, I don't think it's good for clubs or players, because a player that goes out on loan to a club can't go back then for 6 months, even if he gets there and he doesn't fit in, or he doesn't like it, or somebody else is in front of him. Whereas in past you could say, look, it didn't work. You can go back and join in with your own squad, or belong to somebody else. So for a young lad that you're loaning, I think it's better that they get to go to another club, and the rules now don't let that.
Absolutely, that is a shame, because I mean loans can be a real good way of both boosting the talent available to League One and League Two clubs, and also in giving those young exciting players from the kind of upper echelons the chance to get some good first team football and actually learn more about the game and how it works outside the Premier League.
Well, we both had a loan player in the last couple of years. When we won League Two, we had Jimmy Dunn from Burnley, and he went up to you for a spell. Before that he played non-league, and it was great for him. It was great for us, and he's at Fleetwood now. So it's a good experience for Jimmy. Great for us to have his quality, and he's a great lad, and have him around the place, and. So it's kind of doing its job. He got his Republic of Ireland call up while playing with us, because we're getting match time and getting seen. There's another side to it. A lot of loan players from 23 squad, they're fit, but they're not match fit. So they get injured easily. They tend to, when they get into some of the tougher League One matches against real physical players, and I think that's missing in 23s. They can get injured. They're pulling muscles and things like that. So there is that kind of risk with loan players. So we don't want too many. We want to have as many of our own players as we can possibly get. And apart from any other reason, you can't sell a loan. we need a few bob off player sales to help carry on developing the ground and the training ground and the rest of it until we catch up with others. So loans do play a part, but we don't want it to play too big a part at Accrington if we can help it.
And that's very sensible, and it kind of brings me on to one thing I wanted to bring up with you, relating to the sustainability of football and the business models that operate in League One and League Two in particular, and the situation that you've obviously been reasonably vocal about down the road at Bury and Bolton over the last few weeks and months. As a chairman, how do you feel about that? I mean, some people might not have seen your social media posts about it. What's your take on the way that the situation at Bury and Bolton have been dealt with, and the EFL? Because certainly from my perspective, it does feel a little bit strange that we haven't played Bolton in particular yet, and other teams have gone out and run over their kids, and then there was an employment tribunal saying that they couldn't necessarily play their kids. It was a welfare issue. So what's your take on all that?
I mean, there's a couple of things that I'd say, and this is about all clubs and club owners, and that is that whatever the rules are in place, or however good or bad the EFL are, it doesn't mean that owners have got to be so reckless that they damage the clubs, that they risk the clubs. Now, owners running up massive losses are risking clubs, because all them losses have to be either written off or settled up one day. They don't go on forever. They can't go on forever. It's not a magic world that we're in football. Debts and losses are cash, and somebody has to pay it. Now, Mr. Short at your place paid yours and wrote it off. Eddie Davis at Bolton wrote it off, but they didn't have to run that level of loss. Football encourages clubs to run that level of loss because, there's two issues really that cause it. One is if you go up, you get a lot more cash, so you've got bigger crowds, you've got more sellout crowds, you've got better games, you get higher TV money on the way up. And on the way, if you go down, you lose crowds, you lose income, you lose TV income. So if we go down, we probably lose $750,000 as a club. We're a turnover of 3 million. So if we went out to League One, that's what it would cost us. If we went up, we'd probably get 7 or 8 million of extra income. So you start there thinking, well, if I can avoid going down for 500,000, I'm 250,000 better off. And that's what kind of gets owners into the gamble, because you're like, damned if you do and damned if you don't. So but as an owner, you've got to be responsible and say, look, I know them issues, but I'm not going to, some clubs have to go down, some clubs have to go up. We've got to manage with what we can manage without risking the business model. So the owners have to be responsible. But I mean, the rules with EFL and the way this has been handled, it has been shocking. There is no, for me, it's shocking the way they allowed people to take over clubs that, with benefit of hindsight, they weren't fit and proper. But even if you looked at it before the event, you question whether they'd be the right people to run a club, because well, you saw what happened at Bolton when Eddie Davis went. People went in, and it's been a fiasco for 3 years. You've seen what happened at Bury. Stuart Day ran debts up 13 or 14 million or whatever it happens to be, selling car park spaces and stadium, and these clubs can't sustain that level of debt. So there's almost inevitably going to be a problem comes down the line. And I've said to the EFL, you've two choices really. You either allow unlimited debt and allow clubs to go bust, or you control the debt and control the amount that they're going to go bust for. That makes them easier to pick up. I mean, if Bury had gone bust or into CVA only owing £2 million, it wouldn't have gone bust. There'd been plenty of people who'd take it up at that price. But when it's 13 or 14 million, all you've got is someone that's going to buy it for £1 and and be happy if he gets anything back. His risk is a quid. You know, when you get a situation at Bolton, so you're getting clubs in a position where you're inviting these people in. You know, they're not there. They're not there for love at club. They're not there for love at of the town and the community, like I am, and like a lot of owners are. You know, they're there if they can make a living out of it and secure a club, then they're happy. Now, I'm not saying they're bad people, because in normal business, that's what you get. You run a business bad, and you get administrators, and you get people coming in picking off the carcass of a failed business. You know, that's what you get. So we really need to define what a football club is. Is it just a business, or is it a community asset? And make the rules fit what we think it's going to be. But if you want clubs to keep going bust, keep allowing them to get into massive debt, and then that'll happen. So, and then, you know, even having done all that and said all that the EFL are wrong, the actions at EFL since then, you know, since the problems, for me, have been crazy. Why would you allow an administrator to start a team in League One? Because you can never be sure with an administrator that a deal's going to be done. So the deal was done when the EFL put a deadline on it of, I think it was 27th or 28th of last month. Then the deal got done. You do wonder if they'd have put that deadline on before the season started, whether the deal had got done. So you're a team in Bolton, you know, and that's a fabulous club. That's going to be a big club. Like, it is a big club, and it's like yourself. It's one of the really big clubs. But you got them started season owned by an administrator or managed by an administrator, and we're a load of kids. So you know, EFL should be checking before the season starts. Can they complete the fixtures, both financially and physically? And if not, they should have held them back and use that to put pressure on to get the deal done. You know, there were a lot of backwards and forwards in on that deal. So I think we have a lesson to learn in the EFL. I think owners have a lesson to learn. I don't think anybody comes out of this with glory. I think what's happened at Bury is it's just a real tragedy and a real shame, because, you know, I went on our when we went down to Bristol Rovers at weekend. I went on our supporters club bus with supporters, obviously, because it were only 20 quid and it were 100 quid on train. So I thought I'll dive on with supporters. So I'm on supporters club coach, and they're laughing and joking. We set off at 9:30 and gets back at midnight, and they're laughing and joking and singing and talking about players they like, and it's a day out to them guys. It's the weekend. It means so much to them. You know, if it's not there, how do these guys get together? It's the reason for, you know, for the social outing. You know, it's like a Saturday outing, and some of them stay overnight and take their wives, and it fits around the lifestyle. So I think clubs are a lot more than just a business, and I think we have to change the rules to make it so it's less likely that they're going to get completely destroyed. You know, they can get in trouble, but make it so that they're easy to rescue.
I think there's a lot out there at the minute about the need to recognise the social value of football clubs, their community value, and what they bring to the life and soul of a place. On our recent podcast with Kieran Brady, talking about our potential takeover, that was the main takeaway I got from that, was desire amongst fans and ex-players that clubs are looked after, that there's a stewardship model that's at the forefront of the mindsets of owners. I mean, you're somebody, Andy, who's rescued a football club. You know, you've been on the other side of this, of a football club that was struggling, and you've come in and you put your own money into it, and now you've got influence over how that club's run. And as you were talking to Graham last year about a lot of the work you're doing to build the club up in the community. One of the other things that's in the zeitgeist at the minute is player welfare, and recognising the responsibility that football clubs have increasingly for the welfare, the mental health welfare of their players in particular. And you've had a situation the last couple days where you announced on the website, I think yesterday, about the struggles that Billy Key's having at the minute. I didn't want to necessarily go into Billy Key's situation because it's obviously his own personal, his own personal situation. But what do you think about what clubs need to be doing in terms of looking after the well-being of especially the young kids coming through, but also older professionals as they move through their career in terms of their mental health and other problems that they might have with addiction, etc.
I think, I actually think that this is something that the FA, I criticise FA and EFL because of the problems at clubs, but I think this is something that whereby the FA, the EFL, it really ought to be commended, because the EFL raise tons of money now for the Mind charity. They're the official charity that EFL represents, and there's a lot more awareness on all these issues, and I think they're going in the right direction. So I think clubs have a responsibility. I think football has a responsibility, but I don't think they're shirking it. I think there's a way to go, but I honestly think that they're on the right path. I really do. I've sat in meetings where Mind have told us all about what they do, and there are people to talk to now. They're difficult subjects because some people are kind of still embarrassed about it, but I mean, it's less and less of a stigma attached to it, so people are prepared to talk about it. Billy's issues haven't just started this season. He's had issues for a while. And I class him as a friend, and I always will class him as a friend. And if we can help him, we can help him. We've had him in and had a look at what treatments he's having, and we're happy that he's getting the best treatment that's available. So we're here for him, and we'll do whatever we can for him, as long, but the main thing is that he carries on with his treatment and carries on getting the help. But I don't think, I don't think the EFL and FA are doing so bad on this. It's not that long ago. It would never been mentioned. It's it'd have been swept under the carpet and nobody would have said anything. And now it's these issues are at the forefront. So I think they're better at that than they are at running football.
That's really interesting. I mean, we had Jeff Whitley, our ex midfielder. Actually, he was speaking to Graham on a recent podcast about some of the troubles he's had with his mental health, with addiction problems, and how he now is working with the PFA and going out and speaking to professionals, speaking to young players, and he's actually a counsellor himself, and that, I think, has sparked a conversation amongst fans about addiction, about mental health problems, and about how men, especially men in their 20s and 30s, which are your employees as a football club chairman, how suicide and mental health problems are such a massive issue, and that they're talking about it, and that they're breaking down that stigma is the main thing. It's what's going to help to overcome this problem. So I think it's really interesting that you see it as the FA and the EFL are actually leading on this, and maybe this is where again we demonstrate the wider social impact, the wider social benefit of having a football club in your community that's well run and that looks beyond it, beyond the pitch in terms of the impact and influence that it has on society. I
mean, depressions and these issues don't just target football. It knows no barriers. So it does affect fans. It affects everybody the world over. And there's different types of depression, and there's also periods when people should naturally feel down, with bereavements and all sorts of things. And it's trying to get that balance. I mean, the fans are as equally affected as footballers is what I'd say. So as a society, we need to accept that and find ways of managing it better.
Well, one thing that certainly brings football fans joy is going to games and the camaraderie and the kind of the friendships that you can make on the terraces, and so bringing it slightly back to football a bit and looking forward to the weekend. We touched on your form as starting to pick up. Who do you, out of your current squad, who should I be looking out for as a potential danger man on Saturday?
I mean, we've a number of players that I'd be wary of. We've got Jordan Clark that's on fire, Callum Johnson. We've got Sam Finley. I'll be honest. We've got obviously Mark Hughes. It goes on. We've a few options up front. We've just got Colby Bishop from non-league. Sam Finley were from non-league a year or so ago. We've got Colby Bishop from non-league, and that's a good thing, by the way, because I like that progression where they can come to us, do well, and move forward. But we have some really decent players. I think we've got the best squad ever, and hopefully we can show it when we play. Obviously, we've got Sean McConnell. That's he's always up there in goals and assists year in year out, whatever league we're in. But we've got a couple of new ones as well. Like Joe Pritchard that we got from Bolton. He's on fire. It's Big Ross Sykes. But we've got a fabulous squad. I mean, I'm obviously every year till you start getting a squad together for us, where we lose a lot of players. You start thinking, so well, where win's going to come from, and what's the squad going to be like? Because it does take us a while to rebuild it every year, because we can't just go out and buy what we want. But it's I'm really excited. Listen, you're a great club, but obviously I'm sure you'll take us seriously, as you have done every time for the last 5 or 6 times we played each other.
I think you've certainly earned our respect for your on-field play during that 2-2 draw back in February at the stadium. I mean, the first half you were 2-0 up, and we were very, very worried at that point, and we had to play, I think, possibly one of the best halves of football we played last year, just to grab a 2-2 draw off you.
It were on TV, and people were telling me that best match they've watched in ages. So
it was fantastic. I think even my wife was watching it with me, and she was enjoying it by the end of it, and she couldn't give 2 hoots about football. So yeah, it certainly was a good advert for League One football. Now I really hope that the match on Saturday lives up to that standard, and that we're thoroughly entertained by both the teams. I think we'll be taking quite a few down there. My dad bought his ticket yesterday, so he'll be joining us. And I think this is a big game for both the teams, because I think it might help, help to define where we might both end up in the season. So have you got a score prediction for tomorrow? What do you think it's going to be?
For weekend, I'm saying 2-1 to us.
2-1 for you. Yeah, it's not tomorrow, is it? 2-1 for you. Well, I think I'm going to go with 2-1 for us. Actually, we haven't been keeping too many clean sheets, and I always fancy you to score. You always look dangerous, but you've got to be confident for your own team, and I think I'm going to go for the 2-1 as well, Andy.
I mean, for me, I want to see a fantastic game. I want to see two teams playing honestly and fairly against each other, giving it all they've got. I want all you guys, the 2,000, the 2,500 that come down to have a great day out and ale a bit right price, and we'll do his very best to look after you. I'll be knocking about in your crowd, ain't you?
Great. Well,
talking to anybody that wants to talk to me is, I mean, one of your fans, Andrew Flatman, actually did the base for our stand. He's a concrete guy. He's just done our community trust new building floors in the new building concreting, and he were here when it lashed it down. Bless him, and he had one of these wax coats on, and he came at bar at the end of it, took his coat off, and you needed a fork truck to pick his coat up at the end of it. It was that wet. So, you know, we've got some, you know, our lawyers are from Sunderland. We've got some real good ties locally with guys from Sunderland. It's always a fantastic, you know, it'd be a fantastic day. Well, whatever the result, I'm really excited.
Well, I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. My little lad is very excited about the prospect of coming and standing on some terracing, because he's heard lots of stories from me from Roker Park in the past. So he's looking forward to that, and really hope it's going to be a really good game. So I think we're going to have to leave it there, Andy. Thanks again for putting up with all the technical issues and setting this up, and I'll be on the terraces on Saturday afternoon.
All right, good luck. See you, and have safe travelling down and back home.
All right.
Everybody.
Cheers, Andy.
Ta-da.
All right, thanks.